The 400% tip. The Silicon Valley debt trap in your pocket. There is a word we use in American culture to express gratitude. Tip. You tip the waitress who brings you coffee. You tip the driver who drops you off at the airport. You tip the barber who cuts your hair. It is a voluntary transaction between two human beings. A small financial reward for a service well done. But what if I told you that this simple, innocent word has been weaponized? What if I told you that some of the most sophisticated financial technology companies in the world have hijacked the concept of a tip to completely rewrite the laws of American finance? Right now, sitting quietly on the home screen of millions of smartphones, is an application that promises to help the working class. It promises access to your own money, before payday, for free. Zero interest. No credit checks. No debt traps. It sounds like a lifeline. In reality, it is a brilliantly disguised machine. A machine that, according to consumer watchdogs, is quietly charging the American middle class an interest rate of nearly 400%. And the most terrifying part? By the end of this year, the United States government might make this invisible machine entirely, permanently legal. To understand how a word like tip can be used to hide a mountain of debt, we have to look at the people the system was designed for. Meet Sarah. Sarah is 28 years old. She works as a medical assistant at a large regional hospital in Ohio. She makes a decent hourly wage. She works hard. She pays her taxes. But like more than 60% of Americans, Sarah lives paycheck to paycheck. It is a Tuesday. Sarah's direct deposit doesn't hit her account until Friday morning. But as she is driving home from a 12-hour shift, her check engine light turns on. The mechanic tells her it will cost $115 to replace a broken sensor. If she doesn't fix it, she cannot drive to work on Wednesday. If she cannot drive to work, she loses a day of pay. She has exactly $14 in her checking account. 10 years ago, Sarah's only option would have been a strip mall payday lender. She would have walked into a brightly lit storefront, signed a stack of paperwork, and taken out a loan with a staggering annual interest rate. It would have felt like a massive financial mistake. But today, Sarah doesn't have to go to a strip mall. She just opens an app on her phone. The app is brightly colored. The interface is smooth and friendly. It tells her she has earned $200 today, and she can access it immediately. All she has to do is tap a button. There is no loan agreement. There is no interest rate disclosure. Sarah requests $100 to fix her car. The app informs her that to get the money instantly, instead of waiting 3 business days, she needs to pay a small, expedite fee of $4. Then, a second screen pops up. It politely asks Sarah if she would like to leave a tip to support the app's community. The screen is beautifully designed. The default tip of $11 is already selected for her. Sarah is stressed. She is tired. She just wants to fix her car. She leaves the tip, pays the fee, and the money instantly appears in her account. On Friday, when her paycheck clears, the app automatically withdraws $115. Sarah feels relieved. She doesn't feel like she just took out a predatory loan. She feels like a technology company did her a favor. But the math tells a very different story. Let's look at exactly what just happened. Sarah borrowed $100 for 3 days. She paid $15 in total fees. Because the company called $11 of that a tip, and $4 an expedite fee, they legally claimed the interest rate was 0. But if you take that $15 cost for a 3-day advance and annualize it the way every other loan in America is calculated, Sarah did not pay 0% interest. She paid an effective annual percentage rate of almost 500%. That is not an exaggeration. That is the exact calculation used by the National Consumer Law Center. For decades, the United States government has strictly regulated the payday loan industry. If a company wants to lend you money, they have to follow the Truth in Lending Act. They have to explicitly show you the annual percentage rate, or APR, in a large, bold font before you sign. This law exists for one reason, so consumers can see exactly how much a loan actually costs. But the technology companies in Silicon Valley found a loophole. They realized that if they never use the word interest, and they never use the word loan, they can bypass the Truth in Lending Act entirely. They branded themselves as earned wage access. They hired behavioral psychologists to design checkout screens that make tipping feel mandatory. They made borrowing money feel as casual as ordering a pizza. And it worked. Let's pause for a reality check. According to an analysis by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the average user of an earned wage access app does not just use it once in an emergency. The average user takes out 27 advances every single year. This is not a financial lifeline. This is a dependency loop. When Sarah's paycheck arrives on Friday, it is already $115 short. Because her paycheck is smaller, she is going to run out of money faster next week. Which means she will have to open the app again. She will pay another expedite fee. She will leave another tip. This cycle repeats 27 times a year. This free application is quietly draining hundreds of dollars from Sarah's bank account annually. Money that never shows up as interest paid on any financial statement. Money extracted directly from the demographic of Americans who can least afford it. Eventually, regulators started to wake up. In recent years, attorneys general in states like New York and Washington, D.C. have launched massive lawsuits against these apps. They looked at the math, they looked at the fees, and they declared that these products are, definitively, loans. In fact, as of mid-2026, 14 out of 14 courts that have reviewed this issue have ruled against the tech companies. Every single judge agreed, this is credit. The industry was cornered. They were losing in court. State by state, laws were being passed to cap their hidden fees and force them to show their true interest rates. So, the industry did what every powerful corporation does when they cannot win by the rules. They went to Washington, D.C. to change the rules. In July of 2026, a bill was pushed through the House Financial Services Committee. It is called H.R. 9330. If you look closely at the text of this legislation, it is a masterclass in corporate lobbying. The bill proposes a single, unified federal standard for earned wage access products. It completely wipes out the consumer protection laws in 12 different states. And most importantly, it explicitly writes into federal law that these advances are not credit. If this bill becomes law, the debate is over. The tech companies will never have to disclose an APR. They will never have to admit how much their product actually costs. But there is one more detail hidden inside this bill. A detail that reveals the true underlying incentive of the entire industry. The legislation strictly prohibits these apps from reporting user activity to the national credit bureaus. The industry claims this is a good thing. They tell the public, using our app won't hurt your credit score, but the real reason is far more calculated. If these companies reported their data to Experian or TransUnion, the curtain would fall. Regulators, researchers, and traditional banks would suddenly be able to see the truth. They would see that millions of Americans are secretly stacking loans, using 3 or 4 different apps at the exact same time just to make it to Friday. By banning credit reporting, the industry ensures that this massive mountain of consumer debt remains completely invisible to the financial system. It ensures that the dependency loop stays hidden in the shadows of the smartphone economy. So, what do we do with this information? The goal here is not to feel helpless, and the goal is not to shame anyone who uses these apps. When the system squeezes the middle class, people do what they have to do to survive. But you must understand the architecture of the tools you are using. Action step number 1. Calculate your own APR. Do not trust the marketing. If an app charges you a $5 fee to access $100 a week early, you are paying a massive premium. Take the total fees, multiply them by the number of weeks in a year, and look at the real cost. Once you see the true math, the illusion of free money shatters. Action step number 2. Break the loan stacking cycle. If you find yourself relying on multiple cash advance apps simultaneously, you are in a systemic deficit. You cannot borrow your way out of a structural cash flow problem using triple-digit interest rates. You have to manually force a reset. Look into local credit unions. Many offer payday alternative loans, regulated by the federal government, with strict caps on interest rates and no hidden tip screens. Action step number 3. Watch the language of the system. Whenever a corporation invents a new term to describe an old practice, be skeptical. Whether it is earned wage access instead of a loan, or a tip instead of an interest charge. Language is the primary tool used to bypass regulation. The American financial system is constantly evolving. The storefront payday lender with the glowing neon sign is slowly disappearing. But the mechanics of extraction have not gone away. They have simply been redesigned, repackaged, and placed into the palm of your hand. Sarah is still driving to work. Her check engine light is off. But her bank account is quietly bleeding, one voluntary tip at a time. The next time a multi-billion-dollar technology company asks you to leave a tip, ask yourself who is really providing the service.